Hey guys, what's up? How's it going? Welcome to this episode of the podcast. It is 9 o'clock, November 13th. Hopefully, you guys had a good Veterans Day weekend. It's hard to believe that next week is going to be Thanksgiving, but hopefully, you guys are putting the last finishing touches on your Thanksgiving plans. I would assume most people are going to start traveling on Thursday, the 17th, to sort of beat the rush because trying to travel on the 22nd or 23rd, you are crazy. So hopefully, if you're going away, hopefully you're going to get out of here early. Get out of New York early or wherever you're getting out of. You get out early so you don't have to, deal with too many travel issues. But what this podcast is about tonight is just an early prediction on what the match card is going to be for Survivor Series. And when they announced that Survivor Series was going to have War Games, I did do a podcast saying that this is a great way to freshen up a event that has become stale and boring and forgettable, to tell you the truth. When this time of year came around, there's really nothing exciting. For me, after SummerSlam, I couldn't wait for Royal Rumble. I didn't care about Survivor Series. Once upon a time, No Mercy used to be like an October event, a long time ago. That it made a backlash, and all these other little things they tried to throw in there. Just wasn't exciting anymore. And Survivor Series at one point was part of the big, there used to be the big five before it was the big four. It was Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, King of the Ring before, that got trashed. And then Survivor Series. And then King of the Ring went away, then came back, then went away, then came back, then went away again. And now it sounds like it's going to come back again. And then you had Survivor Series. And, what was so great about Survivor Series? Survivor Series at the beginning really just started out. It was really all about the 5-on-5, and then it went into the brand supremacy thing, and that's pretty much where it stayed. They would just do Raw versus SmackDown, and eventually they sprinkled in NXT, and that was really it. And if you think about it, there's really only, at least to me, the top three memorable things of Survivor Series is one, and I'm putting this as number one because he was my favorite wrestler, was the debut of The Undertaker. Now, I'm sure for a lot of you, the number one thing that happened at Survivor Series was the Montreal Screwjob. And then three was the debut of Sting. That's pretty much, when you think about Survivor Series, to me, those are the three things you think about. Because I can't think of anything else. Yeah, Scott Steiner debuted at Survivor Series in Madison Square Garden. Does that make the top three? No. I don't even think it makes the top five. Okay. You could say, Shane and, Kane the ambulance match. That wasn't, too bad. Vince versus The Undertaker? Okay. Because that led to him coming back as, Dead Man Undertaker. Okay, fine. But I think out of those top three things, the debut of The Undertaker, Sting debuting, and the Montreal Screwjob, there's really nothing memorable about Survivor Series. And the suggestion that I threw out, and even though, yes, this War Games does freshen up the event, there's only so long that freshness is going to stay there, And I would hope down the line they make Survivor Series more meaningful. And I had thrown a suggestion out before that you can keep your 5-on-5 match, one men, one women, and that winning team gets the last spots in the Royal Rumble. So somebody's going to come in at number 30, somebody's going to come in at 29. Now you can say, well, okay, how does that get determined who gets what spot? Well, as I've said before, let's say it's just, for sake of argument, let's say it's just the Bloodline, okay? And let's say, Sammy's the first one to get pinned. And then Jay. and then Sika, okay? But Roman and Jimmy are the survivors. So your team won. Well, Sammy was the first to get eliminated. So Sammy goes in at number, 25, okay? And then you can say, okay, well now it's the order that you got eliminated is how you get those last few spots if your team wins. And if you're the sole survivor, you get number 30. But now you can say, well, what happens if, Jimmy and Roman are the last surviving members of their team, of the winning team? Well, then Jay and Roman have to fight on who gets number 30. Now you might say, well, what's the difference if the person comes in at 29, comes in at number 30? Well, the 30 spot's always been the prestigious spot, so, that's why. But that's how I say you could do that to put a premium, because now the Survivor Series 5-on-5 has implications for the Royal Rumble. Just like you did the Royal Rumble, if you win the Royal Rumble, you get the main event at WrestleMania. And I'll talk about the King of the Ring briefly at the end of this, because there's talk about bringing back the King of the Ring. And they only did this 1 year. And I think this is a great way to give more meaning to SummerSlam. I guess I'll talk about it now. That I think they only did it 1 year. I think that was the year when Brock won, which was 2002, 2003, when Brock faced The Rock at SummerSlam. That the winner of the King of the Ring got the championship match at SummerSlam. And then after that, it went away. But I think that's a great way that, because King of the Ring was always used as a launching pad for whoever that person was chosen to win. And I think that's a great way to do it, to help elevate them. Like, okay, you'll get this championship match at SummerSlam. So I just think each of these events of the Big Four should sort of help roll into that next big event. That's just what I feel. But like I said, I'll get more into the whole King of the Ring thing later. Like I said, there's talk about bringing it back as its own pay-per-view or live event. So I'll get into that one later. Maybe I'll do a podcast afterwards just on that. But like I said, this is about Survivor Series and what I think at least the match card is going to be. So if you watched Raw and SmackDown last week, we found out what our War Games matches are going to be for the men and the women. It was no secret, I think, to any of us that the Bloodline was going to be in the men. The question was, who were they going to face? So I would love for you guys to put this in the comments to let me know. Were you somewhat disappointed at who their opponents were going to be? I, for one, did not think the Brawling Brutes were going to be involved. I had Drew McIntyre potentially being involved. I thought it would more be the people who've had issues with the Bloodline over time. So you're talking a Kevin Owens, you're talking a Shinsuke Nakamura, you're talking a Riddle, you're talking a Drew McIntyre, and then the fifth person, I guess if you want to throw Sheamus in there, you could. Maybe if Randy was healthy, it would have been Randy. That's where I kind of thought it was going to go. So I was a little disappointed with it. The question is, who's going to be that fifth person? And because Sammy's involved, I think the obvious choice is going to be Kevin Owens. So I think the War Games for the men is going to be the Bloodline versus the Brawling Brutes, Kevin Owens, and Drew McIntyre. That's where I see that going. And that's who that fifth man is going to be. Because if you recall, there was talk that, because you haven't seen Kevin Owens in a while, and that Kevin was supposed to start helping break Sammy away from the Bloodline, but because it's been so comical and Sammy's been doing such a good job, they delayed that. And by the way, I'm interested to see the crowd reaction because, remember, the Bloodline is supposed to be heels. And they are not heels. They are faces, okay? No matter how much, Jay tries to tell the crowd to shut up or whatever, they are faces. And it really reminds me of what happened with Eddie Guerrero. Because when Eddie Guerrero was teaming with Tajiri, I think this was in 2000. I think it was 2000. It was either 3 or 4, because 2005, I think that's when they did the I'm Your Poppy storyline with Rey Mysterio. And Tajiri and Eddie Guerrero do an attack match. I don't remember who it was. It was either against the Bashams or La Resistance, but I'm going to say La Resistance. And, Eddie used to drive the lowrider out to the ring. And the opponents threw Tajiri on top of the car. And, Eddie's recovering the ring, then he gets up, and then he sees like, oh my God, So you're thinking he's concerned about Tajiri. No. So he gets Tajiri, he throws him off his car, and he's like, look at my car, hugging his car, worried about the car, and then he attacks Tajiri, effectively turning Eddie heel. But what was the problem? The crowd cheered him. And they kept chanting Eddie. And everywhere he went, they kept chanting Eddie. And I remember him doing a promo about, you don't mess with my right and all that stuff. And the crowd went crazy. And they couldn't turn Eddie heel then. And then eventually, once he, turned on Rey Mysterio, they did the whole I'm Your Papi storyline. That's when the crowd finally turned on Eddie. But it's just funny that when they first tried to do it, it didn't work. And it's like now you want the Bloodline to still be the heels, but it's not happening now. So essentially what you have here is a face versus face in the War Games match. That's what you got. So it's going to be interesting to see how the crowd reacts and what happens, with the outcome. Now, in a match like this, the Bloodline can lose. Roman doesn't have to take the pinfall. My guess would be either Sami takes the pinfall or Jay takes the pinfall. I don't think they're ready to pin Sika yet. I don't think they're ready to really put anything on Jimmy right now because the focus right now, at least on the Bloodline, is, Sika and Jimmy are pretty much, out of focus. They're just there. The focus right now is between Sami and Jay, and believe it or not, Roman's kind of like number 3 right now, because the focus is just on those two in the whole relationship right now. So one of those two can be pinned. As a matter of fact, you can pin Sami, and maybe that can begin the tension because I believe Sami is going to be thrown out of the Bloodline, and I think that's the way you could probably start planting the seeds for it, and then potentially you could have a Sami and Kevin Owens versus the Usos for the tag team championships, because the question was what team is going to dethrone them, and it's not going to be the New Day, and it shouldn't be the New Day. It shouldn't be the Brawling Brutes. I thought when Carl Anderson and Gallows came back to the OC, those were you guys, and that's still a possibility. But I think now you also could have the team of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and it probably makes a little bit more sense for that to happen because of the history that would be there. I think you could also do John Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, but it seems like Tommaso's injured right now. How long he's going to be out, nobody knows. So, I'm not going to count them. But if I had to list the 3 teams of who would dethrone the Usos, top of my list right now would be the team of Sami and Kevin Owens. Behind them, the OC. And then underneath them would be Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. So that's where I see that match going. For the women, again, we all knew that Bianca Belair was going to be in the match. We all knew it was going to be Damage Control. We knew it was going to be Asuka. We knew that. The question was, who is going to fill the last 2 spots on each team? So we got a little bit of an answer with Bayley, with Nikki Cross. That was a little bit of a surprise to me. Well, not a little bit. It was a surprise to me. I am happy that Nikki is getting, a good push because, she was really underutilized, and I think she was also robbed because if you remember when she started that whole Nikki Ash thing, it was out there how, Vince was very happy, very pleased with her. That's why they gave her the Money in the Bank, and then she cashed in because she made herself more marketable with the character to kids. And then a month later, they take it away from her. And then she was just downhill ever since. And it's like, how can you get this person hyped up because I'm quite sure there was a conversation about, this is really good, this was smart of you, you made yourself more valuable, and now she's thinking, okay, maybe I can get myself a 6-month run with the women's title, make some extra money with the merchandise, and really get the character over, and then it's taken from her a month later. So it looks like she's getting some redemption under Triple H, because Triple H definitely knows how to utilize her. Is it the perfect fit for this match? I don't know, but like I said, I'm happy she is getting the push, though. So now it's Damage Control and Nikki Cross who is going to be their partner. So originally, before Nikki Cross came in, I said I would have liked to see Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey be a part of their team. Well, clearly that can't happen for 2 reasons. Reason 1, Nikki Cross. And number 2, Ronda Rousey's going to be defending her title against Shotzi. So that leaves it open. But who I think they can get, I still think they can get Shayna Baszler. And the reason why I say is because there is history with Shayna Baszler and Bianca Belair. Because if I am correct, they faced each other either 2 or 3 times in NXT. And and Bianca never beat her, because this is when Shayna was the women's NXT champion, and she was on a tear, and she was pretty much just running through everybody. I believe it was Rhea Ripley who finally dethroned her. It wasn't Bianca Belair. So there is some history there. So my prediction is going to be on Bayley's side. It will be Bayley, Io Sky, Dakota Kai, Nikki Cross, and I'm going to go with Shayna Baszler. That's my 5. Now, on Bianca's side, that is a lot tougher. Because is this where they bring back Sasha Banks and Naomi? Does Becky Lynch make her comeback? And if Becky Lynch makes her comeback, who's number 5? Is it Charlotte? Charlotte's due to come back. But you have a caveat there that Charlotte and Becky don't like each other on a personal level anymore. Can they put their differences aside and do business and work together? I think they're both professional to do that. But will that get the pop? Would that get the excitement? Becky, yes. And, I should say yes, because I think people will be shocked that they're all on the same team. That, first off, that Becky and Charlotte are working together. And that also is that Charlotte has been built up with such an ego, the fact that she's even willing to do it. So, my prediction is good. And they can also pull somebody from NXT. Who they pull from NXT, I have no idea. But my prediction is going to be one of the 2 scenarios. It will either be Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka, and either Sasha and Naomi, or Becky and Charlotte. That's where I'm going with that prediction. Who's going to win the match? That I don't know yet. I got to wait to see more, of the next Raw and SmackDowns, because we have 2 more Raw and SmackDowns, so I can't say who's going to win what just yet. But that's where I see that one going. Now, for the United States Championship, I do think Seth Rollins will be on the card. I think they're going to go one of 2 ways. I think they're either going to do a Fatal 4-Way elimination match with Seth Rollins defending against Mustafa Ali, Bobby Lashley, and Austin Theory. Or they'll do, 3 things. Or they'll do a triple threat match where Austin Theory is not involved. It'll just be Bobby Lashley and Mustafa Ali. Or it will just be a one-on-one match with Seth Rollins and Mustafa Ali. I don't think they're going to do the Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley thing. They could. If they don't include Bobby Lashley in the United States Championship match, I think they might do an angle where they suspend him because, he's just out of control, destroying everybody. He's doing like the Brock Lesnar route. I can see them doing that and just building up to them, because remember, they want to try to push the storyline to WrestleMania. And the way that I see them doing it is they do suspend Bobby because Bobby is, running wild. Maybe have Brock come back, cut a promo to continue to antagonize Lashley, and then let them meet in the Royal Rumble. And maybe have Brock eliminate Bobby, where Bobby is like really, really like that makes him want that match even more. Sort of like what Goldberg was doing to Lesnar. Goldberg just always had Lesnar's number. Well, now you can sort of do a thing where, Lesnar always has Lashley's number and eliminates him. And then, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have Lashley come back and try to screw him to get him lit, because it's like then you kind of got the revenge. That's what I think is what they need to do. While Lesnar's back is turned, somebody could toss out Lesnar. They could brawl, on the outside. That's fine. But I think that's where that's going to go. I think they are going to try to stretch that match, and I think that's probably the way you can kind of keep that match going. That you suspend Lashley for a while, allow Brock to antagonize him a little bit, and then as we get to the Royal Rumble, they can meet in the Royal Rumble, and then that could be the launching pad of getting them to WrestleMania. That's probably how you can do that. But I do think Seth Rollins is going to be on the card. I do think the United States title is going to be defended, and I think it will be Seth versus Mustafa, or they will do that fatal four-way match. I think they're probably better doing either the triple threat or the fatal four-way, because I think the one-on-one match with Mustafa Ali, Mustafa Ali is not as hot as he was. He's really cooled off, and is that all his fault? I don't think so, but I don't think it's strong enough for them to work one-on-one. Not to mention, Seth is no longer a heel. Seth is a babyface now. Okay? When they first, were starting to lock up with Mustafa Ali, Seth was still a heel. He's a babyface now. So you might need that heel factor of Austin Theory, and you might sort of need that tweener version of Bobby Lashley. So probably the Fatal 4-Way is probably the best way to go. I'm not going to go on a tirade about how they buried Theory. I'm going to try to wait to see what they do with him. I mean, it's really hard not to think that they just buried this guy. It's really hard not to think that. But I'm going to try and be patient and wait and see if there is a further burial of this guy, or is this going to be some sort of swerve where, okay, you make everybody think he's down, he's out, he sucks, and then we get some sort of surprise. And the surprise, at least leading up to a surprise of any meaningfulness, would be him winning the Royal Rumble. And the only way I see that happening with him is if The Rock is not doing anything, Cody Rhodes can't come back in time, and they don't want to do anything with Seth Rollins. That is the only way I could even put the thought together that they would do something like that with Theory. Because to me, you have just shown you don't have the same faith in him as Vince did. And is that going to change in a couple of months? I have no idea. But let's see what happens on that one. Like I said, you have the Smackdown match with Rhonda versus Shotzi. I mean, you can't tell me how that's not going to go, but whatever. And, I know they're doing this World Cup thing on SmackDown. I don't know who's in it. I think I saw Shinsuke. I know Ricochet is in it. I think the Escobar guy is in it, but as far as that, I have no idea who else is going to be in that match. I know Braun's already advanced. I really don't want to see Braun versus Gunter just yet. But if that does happen, I think Gunter needs to win. I don't think it's time to put any titles back on Braun just yet. And I don't think Braun and the Omos thing is done. I think Omos is going to cost him in the World Tournament, in the Cup tournament anyway. So I think we'll probably get another Omos and another Braun match. It's possible you get that at Survivor Series. It's possible. But I think they'll also have the Intercontinental title match on there as well. I mean, I know they said that the person can get the match at any time that they choose. I would think it would be Survivor Series. And I think it should probably be Gunther versus either Shinsuke or Ricochet. But I wouldn't mind seeing Shinsuke and Gunther again because the match wasn't bad. I think they had a match on SmackDown. It wasn't that bad. And I think if you really let these guys go, I think they'll turn on a pretty good match. So that's what I think. I think you can fit that on there. Listen, you got 2 War Games matches. You have the women's SmackDown match. You do a United States title match. That's 4. That's 4 matches. You know, usually when they have like a really big match like this, they usually maybe just might do like 5 matches on the card, 5 or 6. You can I think you can still fit an Intercontinental title match on there, and then 1 non-title match, which is probably Braun and Omos, or Brock and Lashley decide to do that. So, right, 2 War Games matches, a United States match, a women's match, Intercontinental, that would be 5, and then another 6. Yeah, 5 to 6 matches, I think, and I think you can get all those on the card and give everybody a decent amount of time. So that's where I'm going to go. That's my predictions for the card. As far as who's going to win, well, first of all, let's see if my prediction for the card even comes to fruition, and then I'll come back on and give my prediction of who's going to win and how they might win. So again, leave your comments. Let me know what you think about my prediction for the match. Match card. Do you think it's going to go a different way? Do you think Seth Rollins will even be on the card? Just tell me what you think, and I'll be back with another episode probably next week or at the end of this week. So again, leave your comments, like, and subscribe.